the world. And what we're really quickly going to talk about is something that kind of relates to the stock market. This is really for my options traders. My day traders can also get into this, and we're going to really start talking about this situation with AMC. So this is really what we've been trying to do, and I've been trying to lead to all day. But I'm a spontaneous person creatively. So if I get into a creative mood, I just go for it. And really, if I had the time, if I didn't have something to do, I'd probably make videos all night, just because I would get into a rhythm and a continuity of making videos, right? But I got other stuff I got to do, so I got to get to it. So what we want to talk about is AMC Theater, and what we're looking for is that where we've kind of forecasting this share price and this company's health to be as we move forward into the future based on what's currently going on right now, what's also going on in the market. Now, this is the type of analysis that I want to start really exposing you to where it's not hype, it's not CEO cheerleading, but it's looking at this particular situation from a very pragmatic and methodical and meticulous way as to how can we make money out of this, because we're here to make money, right? We're here to make money. Our goal is to come in, understand how can we ride this situation, how can we leverage this situation to take money from the market into our pockets. That's what we're here for, so that we can therefore take that money back to our group, right? We're not here for any other reason. So if you're here for another reason, you're in the wrong place. We're here to make money. So we got to start having this understanding how to make money. Now, Katrina, I don't think AMC is going to get out of debt, and we're going to discuss that, because that's why I'm glad you brought it into the game. See, so we got to talk about this, because I don't think they get out of debt. I think that debt in this market suffocates this company. So let's go ahead and get into it. So AMC did earnings the other day. So I want to say it was a day ago, 2 days ago, right? So they reported 162 million. I think their earnings was 162.25. They beat estimates, right? But the only reason they beat estimates because the estimates were so low, because people understood the scenario that we're in. Now, they had a 90% drop of revenue from the fourth compared to last year, but we anticipated that because we understand the situation last year is not the same thing as the situation today. The question is, based on the market, the current market that we're currently in for entertainment, and the debt that AMC has, are they going to be able to push forward? So now this is what we want to ask ourselves. AMC is a theater. We kind of understand the theater game. And if you look at their earnings report, AMC really breaks down how much money they make on the movie and also how much money they make on the concessions. Because when you start looking at the movie game, they don't really make a lot of money on the ticket. They make a lot of money on concessions because that's what's really, really marked up. But they got to get you into the theater to sell you the concessions, right? Because really who makes the money on the movie is a distributor who actually puts that movie in AMC. AMC's job is to essentially corral a bunch of people and get you to buy concessions that's really marked up, because you understand, like, if you buy candy inside the movie theater, that same candy at the gas station is 50 cents and the movie theater is $2. So that's how they make their money. So I want you to understand is that they're under a lot of stress because of a new environment, and we're going to talk about that. So we have a lot of changes in the marketplace. Some of it got to do with COVID, and some just have to do with the fact that the marketplace is changing. So let me give an example. When I came up, if you wanted to buy a record, you left the house, right? So if you wanted to get a record, you literally had to leave and go to a record store to get a record because you had to buy a physical, right? Now you get all your record through the internet. There's no reason to ever leave your house to get any piece of music ever, unless you just want physical music for whatever reason, right? So you got Walmart, places like that. They serve an older demographic that likes their music like that. What we're seeing with the movie game is that we're going to start getting a lot of direct to consumer releases. So the new Matrix that's supposed to be coming out, they've already said that's going straight to HBO Direct. I don't know if that Wonder Woman is ever going to hit the theaters. We got Dune coming out in October. That may go straight to direct. Disney is already talking about releasing all of their stuff straight to direct. So the question is, if the big name releases are all going to be going straight to consumer based on these direct consumer platforms, why do you need to go to the movies? Because the movies only works because they got this big release to get you there. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So if the movies can't get these big over-the-top releases, because everything now is about a blockbuster movie. If the movie theaters can't get the blockbuster movies to get you in the theater so they can sell you the concessions, how do they make their money? And this is what I think you're going to see with AMC. There is a lot of pent-up demand because people been cooped in the house. They ain't been to get out, okay? when things open up, that demand is going to get served. But that demand is not going to have a lot of staying power. So let me give an example. I used to live in Atlanta, right? So it get real cold in Atlanta in the winter, especially to me because I'm from Florida. So I'm not used to it being 20 degrees at night. That's like, to me, it's like we on the moon or something. So what you see in Atlanta is that in the winter, a lot of people really don't come out their house. Everybody just be in the crib because it's so cold. Like Atlanta be 15 degrees and 10 degrees at night. So then the question is, once we get into like March in Atlanta and we start getting some decent weather at night that was like 65, 70 degrees, everybody run out the door and they go out and they go to the restaurants and they go to the mall, yada, 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 because everybody been cooped up. But that only lasts like about 2 or 3 weeks. And then once everybody gets that out their system and their money start getting low because they done ran through their little bit of money, everything goes back to normal. So the stores and the theaters, they get a big bump in revenue in that short amount of time, and then everything starts leveling out. So with AMC, what you're going to expect from my perspective is that when everything opens back up, this vaccine starts to get widespread, you're going to get a bump, right? People are going to run out there. They're going to see the movies, especially if there's a movie out there for them to see. Because they want to get out of the house and they want to try to get back to that normalcy. But the issue is that if the movie production houses have decided that they're going to create relationships with these direct-to-consumer platforms and they're going to bypass the theaters, AMC can't make it. On top of that, they got a massive amount of debt. So you can go to Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance has not updated, right, their latest earnings. But if you look at the debt that AMC has, it's almost $11 billion. So they almost got $11 billion worth of debt. Then on top of that, they owe millions of dollars in rent to their landlords for the places in which they're paying rent to because they weren't paying rent during this whole COVID scenario. So they have a lot of debt within their company, right? The question is, how do they pay that off if their revenue starts to go like this? So after they get past this bump that they're going to get because of the pent-up demand, and the revenue starts to slide down again because everybody's going to the direct-to-consumer platforms to see the Matrix. They say Hamilton is going direct-to-consumer. Doom might be going direct-to-consumer. The Wonder Woman might be going direct-to-consumer. Disney now is going to essentially corral all their titles. They're not going to, Disney's going to put very few things in the theaters now. They're going to corral all their titles, especially the Star Wars franchises. If all that's going direct-to-consumer, where those particular platforms can control it, and they're going to cut the movie theaters out, how do they deal with that on top of the debt they got? So when you look at Cinemark's in the same situation, but they don't have the debt, right? So then the question is, you coming in and buying the stock in that particular company, when this thing goes into bankruptcy, right, what's going to happen? Because we understand that shareholders get paid last, or they get compensated last in the bankruptcy procedure. It's the principal debt or the senior debt. They do the bondholders, and then they do bankruptcy. So this is my projection. This is not investment advice. I want you to understand this. I think AMC is going to be out of here within the next 1 to 2 years. Given maybe 2 years, I think they're going to be out of here. Will they have maybe a small footprint? Maybe while they're going through a bankruptcy proceeding. I think this debt is going to choke them out. I don't think they're going to be able to make it. Because we see that they got a 90% drop of revenue in the fourth, right? So compared to fourth quarter last year, the fourth quarter this year, they lost 90% of revenue. Okay, how did they pick that revenue back up? Because we was living in a totally different world last year. And like I said, it's not just COVID. It's the consumer's relationship with how they want to consume media. And you can never forget that. Just like I said, when I was coming up, we bought all our music at a store. Once Napster came out, it was a wrap for that. Once people realized I ain't got to leave my house to get music no more, it was over. They was never going to leave their house to get music again. And unless you just are insistent on getting physical music, why would you leave your house to go get music when you could just get your music on your phone? It don't make no sense. So you got to understand is that once the consumer habits start to change and things start to become more convenient for the consumer to get the same entertainment that they were getting, but you don't have to leave, how do you get around that? And if AMC can't come into these production houses or these distributors, right, and say, we want these titles and we think we can support this particular title really, really well, they're going to be in a very bad scenario because like I said, they have the debt. So when you're looking at a company like this that has a massive amount of debt, you also need to look at their free cash. Their return on equity is terrible because of the debt. Their return on assets is terrible because of this debt. And they took on a lot of debt to keep this company floated. They also issued a lot more shares, and we saw how people went and bought those shares up, which was bad. To me, was a mistake. But I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell people what to do with their money. But they was able to raise capital by issuing more shares. Their float now is enormous. But like I said before, is that how do they deal with this debt situation in a contracting marketplace? We saw the same thing with Blockbuster. Blockbuster was out. Netflix came out. Blockbuster didn't change their model. Netflix just took their market from them. Why? Because technology changed. People stopped wanting to go out of their house to get video rentals. They would rather sit at home and watch everything on the computer. So Blockbuster, instead of transitioning to that new model, they try to stick with the old model, which is what being a destination experience where you go to Blockbuster, you get the video. They also sold concessions in there. They had the big releases at 12:01. Once people realized I ain't got to leave my house to do that anymore, they weren't willing to do it. And Blockbuster just faded away. When I moved to Tampa to go to college, this was like 07, 08. It was 2 Blockbusters in Tampa. There was nobody in there. I was going in there to rent video games. Nobody was in those stores, and Blockbuster was trying to sell you into a subscription model so they can get some recurring revenue or residual revenue out of you. And I never went for that because I was just in there like to rent John Madden and stuff like that. But I seen that store was going down. I remember when you were going to Blockbuster, 11, 12 o'clock at night, that thing would be jam-packed. Why? Because they had turned Blockbuster into a destination. So I really want you to look at what I'm looking at, and this is my own personal view. This is not investment advice. I'm looking at the options chain for AMC going out a few years. Because like I said before, is that I don't think that they're going to be here in the next 2 years. I don't think they're going to have it. Right? Yeah, you're right, Katrina. Netflix was DVD, but see, the DVD was coming to your house. Then they invested a lot of money into building out a platform where everything was on the platform and they didn't have to ship physical anymore. Right? Because shipping physical, there's a lot of logistics involved with that. So you saw how Netflix was willing to invest in the technology to deal with the changes in consumer behavior and consumer needs and desires. And Blockbuster wanted to stay fixed, right? And because Blockbuster wanted to stay fixed, they just got ran out of business. And when you're looking at AMC, not only are you looking at the change in the marketplace, like I said, is that debt is going to choke them out. Because I don't think they can pay it, because I think their revenues are never going to pick back up. I think you're going to get a bump in this next quarter. Once we start to release, the bump may even last to the summer. Once we start rolling back into the fall, into the winter, I think we're really going to start to see on their earnings statements how they've never been able to pick back up, right? Because once we compare this new year, right, in which things are picked back up till COVID and things don't look better, is really going to be the tail of the tape for this particular company. So I'm looking at options chains going way out on the downside. That's not investment advice. But if you want to learn how to look at these particular situations from a pragmatic standpoint, and how if you're just patient, you can capitalize on this, because I said it's my own personal perspective of this, is that this company's not going to be able to make it. Miss Lady L, what they have to decide to reinvent themselves, but what are they going to reinvent themselves in? And the question is, even if they reinvent themselves, they still got all this debt. So they carried all this debt to keep the company going. So the question is, if you were going to reinvent yourself, why not reinvent yourself and take the debt on? But what they look like they're doing is that they're going to stay into the movie game. They're going to stay into the movie experience game, and you're still going to carry the debt. But I don't believe that revenues are ever going to pick back up for them. I just don't see it happening. And they're carrying this debt. So as the shareholder in this company, you get compensated last in bankruptcy proceedings. So you really got to know what you're buying when you're buying this company. Just because it's $10, just because that Reddit crowd is behind it, that don't mean anything. In fact, they can merge or be bought out. But Bacchus, let me ask you a question. What about a company with $11 million of debt is attractive to you? Because if you buy a company with $11 million of debt, you're now responsible for the debt in that company. So when you're looking at a company, what you want to be looking for is, what do they have that's valuable that you can acquire, that you can capitalize on? Why would you buy a company with $11 billion in debt in a marketplace that's contracting? So who would want that company, right? So that's what you got to look at. Now, I don't know how much cash is in the company, but it's nowhere close to the amount of debt that they have, right? There's cash available. So when you're buying a company, you get the cash and the debt, right? But why buy the company if the debt is exponentially greater than the cash in the company? Because we can take the cash out, but we still owe the debt to whoever we owe the debt to. And they're still going to want to get paid on the debt. And even if you sink it in the bankruptcy proceeding, right, now you got to go through that. And the bondholders are going to want their money. Don't buy away the way the dividends, buy and sell on the up, down trends. Yeah, you could trade it. You could trade it. I get that. 100% you could trade it. But the question is, with it being $10, where do you think it's going? Because the only reason why it's $10 is because there's a lot of buzz around the company. This is a $5 a share stock, right? Until they prove otherwise. And so this Reddit crowd and these people that are, I don't know, guess they caught up in nostalgia, are trying to bring AMC back. I don't know why, but you know, people got a right to do whatever they want to do with their money. You're right, because Amazon couldn't even secure them. That's what I'm saying, Shadow. I think that what they did is they are going to try to suck all the money they can out of this company, and they're going to just dump it, and they're going to leave the bondholders are going to have to deal with the bankruptcy proceeding. They're going to try to get their money out of the court, out of the courts, and the shareholders are going to get left stuck. And it's going to be similar to Hertz. This thing's going to fall to $2 or $3. A lot of people are going to try to run in thinking it's going to be a good deal. It's going to come back. It's not going to come back. And just like Hertz, they're going to get left holding the bag, because we know that shareholders in a bankruptcy proceeding, they always get paid last. They get compensated last, senior debt, then the bondholders, and then the shareholders. So just be real careful in this scenario, because like I said before, is that the marketplace has changed, and you got to make sure that you're evaluating the change in the marketplace and not just looking at the company and their earnings statement. You got to always factor in the market and how things are changing. And you got to realize a person that is 17 years old has no idea what it's like to leave their house to go buy a record or an album, right? They don't even understand that. I always trip out on young people still saying, especially like young artists, especially like in the rap game, saying they're getting ready to put out a tape. Because I know they don't even know what a tape is, right? We're going to get to a generation of young people that are going to have no idea what it is like to leave their house to go see a movie. And that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So you got to realize that these particular type of businesses are not really going to be valuable anymore. Outside of maybe like in the middle of nowhere, Walla Walla, Washington, you're going to have an AMC theater. But as far as what they were back in the 90s and the early 2000s, that's over with. That's just over. I used to go see movies at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't even do that anymore, right? Those days are over. So I want you to really start factoring this in. And as a trader, how can you take advantage of that? Even though there's not a lot of meat on the bone for this company because it's only a $10 stock. I'm looking at it from a different perspective because, like I said, I understand situational trading. If you want to learn how to take advantage of these type of situations and you want to start understanding how can you get around people that have really pragmatic and conversations about this with the goal of putting ourselves in a position to make money, reach out to me about the highest paid part-time job in the world. Once these videos get uploaded, they get processed, I will have the link in the description. This is David W. Williams. If you know somebody can get value from it, share it out. Hit me up in the comments. I'll talk to you later.